I'm Hugh Nall, current chairman of the American Peanut Council. We're here today to introduce the video to celebrate 75 years of the American Peanut Council. What a great opportunity. We brought several people together from the past to show the strength of the different segments of the APC. 2015 marks the 75th anniversary. So happy anniversary, and thanks to all who make up the APC.
Yes, it was the best of times and the worst of times, World War II. But in the midst of that chaos, some far-sighted individuals were thinking about the future of their industry, looking beyond the war to solidify their industry. And so the National Peanut Council was born. On that morning in May 1941, the first annual meeting of the National Peanut Council was held at Pensacola, Florida, and called to order by Roy E. Parrish, the first president. It was just 1 year earlier, on March 29, 1940, a meeting was held in Washington, D.C. by 4 major peanut grower cooperative organizations, representing more than 50,000 peanut growers of Virginia, North Carolina, the southeastern and southwestern peanut areas, to move to get themselves organized. And so a hefty fund of $400 was collected to defray initial miscellaneous expenses. Then in August of 1940, another meeting was held to complete the permanent organizational effort. A budget of $15,000 was approved, and work was begun. A.M. Dixon, in charge of the peanut program for USDA then, commented in his speech to the council in 1941 that peanuts can offer a good cash income to those who grow them and profits to those who exploit them, and that peanuts as a raw material is a quality product to work with and should offer a real challenge to both the growers and the industry. In the next few minutes, we want to share with you some of the comments from those men who were movers and shakers in the National Peanut Council in the early days to bring the council to where it is today.
In 1940, a group of leaders in the industry, including my father, who is here, concluded that the peanuts were not keeping up, not gaining market. They got together and concluded that a national organization in which everybody contributed. At first it was 25 cents a ton. All growers and all shellers contribute 25 cents a ton for each ton of peanuts they handle, and they would get up a fund in which they could promote the sale of peanuts. Among the men in that group was my father and Ed Stevens of Stevens Industries, who was very strong on research. In fact, he was vice president in charge of research and development. The idea was to increase the sale of peanuts, but also to formulate some policy of upgrading and making a better quality peanut, as well as increasing the volume of production. That was about 1940-41. A few little informal meetings in Atlanta at the Biltmore Hotel. I believe there was a meeting or two in Virginia, because Columbian Peanut Company was a large factor in the business in that area. But out of that beginning, they got together and finally organized the National Peanut Council.
Joe Sugg served as president in 1964 and 65, but previous to that had served 2 terms as interim president. He represented the North Carolina Peanut Growers Association, and he recalls the first meeting he attended with the National Peanut Council.
I contacted Bill Seals, the then president of the National Peanut Council in Washington, and he assured me that he would love to have the North Carolina peanut growers as members, and that I was invited to attend the National Peanut Council Convention in Washington at the Shoreham Hotel in March of that year. Upon arriving at the convention site, I sought out Mr. Seals and asked him what the agenda was, what I could do. And when I found him, he was in the lobby, and he said, over in that corner are the shellers. Over in that corner are the manufacturers. Over yonder are the growers. You go get with the growers. And the brokers are running around amongst all of them. And that struck me as being quite unusual for an organization which I felt was a unified effort of the total industry in promoting the good of the product for the industry as a whole. And from that time forward, I was continuously trying to strive to get people together.
Exactly. The problem was that the interest of the farmer, the interest of the peanut sheller, the interest of the end user was not understood by the average person. And we were trying to get this thing organized where everyone would be a member of it. The sheller, the farmer, the end user, and the public at such. And it was a gathering together of all the peanut industry in one body, where they'd have the same purpose and cause, and keep from eliminate the fighting of each other on problems that were not understood properly.
That in the late 50s or early 60s, the peanut industry was very divided, particularly the shellers, the growers from North Carolina, Virginia, Southeast, and Southwest. We didn't have the ownership of shelling industry like we do at the present time, so we were all battling for markets, and it was a very divided industry, which was not good.
Bill Keene, who was chairman of the council in 1949, recalls an event in the early 40s that brought the Peanut Council some needed dollars in the early 50s.
But in 1941, we began to get very active and aggressive promotionally, opening markets, and we're having real good luck. And I think this success, along with Peter Pan's, had the result of launching a search for a stabilizer that would permit the normal peanut butter manufacturer to produce a stabilized non-oil separating peanut butter. And the first one out of the box, and I believe this is correct, was Fix X, which was developed by a Paul Mitchell, as I recall, who either was retained by the National Peanut Council or worked for the Peanut Council, I'm not sure which. And Procter & Gamble was licensed to manufacture it, as I recall, on a royalty basis.
Well, I came into the peanut business in 1952, and the person that I worked very closely with was Ben Birdsong, and he was very active at that point in the National Peanut Council, and I believe that he became a chairman 2 or 3 years later. We've been able to resolve all of these differences in a reasonable fashion.
Yeah, just naturally you had various interests on certain things, but it didn't affect the friendship in the VC area. I felt close to all the shellers, and they worked well with me and my job.
It wasn't until the 1960s that the organization calling itself a council really and truly became one.
I remember when aflatoxin showed up, there was a concentration of oil stock peanuts shipped to Holland in meal form. And they fed it to a bunch of ducklings over there and killed every one of them. And that's how it started up. They never have proven to this day that it's injurious to a human being, but at the same time the government put every effort behind it to see that it wasn't. So all peanuts nowadays are government inspected as to grade and as to aflatoxin contents.
Well, the major issue, as far as I'm concerned, will always be the absolute shattering fear when we learned what aflatoxin was and what it could do to our industry. And we had seen some other commodities and other industries go through absolute living hell in terms of loss of prestige and quality and sales when the public became aware of something wrong with the inherent product. So when we learned that there was a toxic substance which was on peanuts, and we didn't know how it got there, and we didn't know how to remove it, it was a very scary experience.
Raymond Singletary recalls earlier days of shipping peanuts abroad.
They were done primarily by oil mills who were buying the Commodity Credit Corporation peanuts and really just taking the top portion of the peanuts and exporting them and crushing the rest of them into oil. And it was more of you had good quality because they really, the way the program worked, they could afford to do that. But it was soon after the 65 area when all of the Shellos began exporting peanuts, and when they did that, then the National Peanut Council began to develop a export program that has been extremely helpful to the industry from the years forward.
It was the only organization that had everybody involved in peanuts eligible for membership. That is, growers, handlers, manufacturers, the whole bit, brokers, everybody. And that was the only, and still is, I suppose, the only organization that has that wide a scope.
So now we move forward and celebrate the 75th anniversary of the American Peanut Council. And my, how far we've come. Just like those individuals from the first 50 years who forged and built an effective organization to serve the entire American peanut industry, today's leaders, with their vision, determination, and talent, continue to build on that firm foundation.
In the early 60s was pretty rough, and then we had the inverter come along and get the peanuts out of the soil and help clean up the stones and ground-borne farm material. And then Lewis Carter's gravity table that was separation of unshelled and shelled with the ripple bottom screen made a big difference in being able to separate that. The statistical quality control that was implemented back in those days improved the quality of the peanuts before it went out of grade or was at the very end of the line with a 2,000 gram sample, which did not really reflect the full lot. And the electronic equipment in the sorting equipment was a very important step as far as getting nut grass and that type of thing that you could not see with just measuring light reflection. The true color sorter was a big improvement. And then I would say the next one would be the 2002 Farm Bill change, where the industry went together as a group.
As we moved into the 60s, we were working and keeping records with charts, pen and pencil, and using old elevated calculators that shook through a 7-minute process to give a price. We gradually moved into computerization. We had a vast amount of knowledge available as to weighted averages in warehouses, data for the shelling plants, more knowledge for our growers to help them know a weighted amount of farm material for their entire operation. And in doing this, as the computerization moved forward, always from the beginning, being a part of the peanut world has been like being a part of a family where your last name was Peanut. We were competitors, but yet we were willing to help each other. If you had a real problem, they didn't give you your innermost secrets, but they were willing to grasp your hand and help you move forward. And being a part of the peanut world has just been a magnificent part of my life, a treasure, especially being able to work with the growers, because that's where it all begins. Without the grower, there are no peanuts and nothing for us all to work with.
I honestly believe peanuts can feed the world. I mean, I think Africa, Asia, you know, more inroads into Europe. It's very difficult. You have to really search long and hard to find something deleterious about peanuts. They're kind of the all-American snack, and they're healthy. They make kids grow. They prevent all kinds of birth defects and that sort of thing. I think we have an enormous upside potential with peanuts.
I think now and in the future, it is going to be, you know, the platform where we all get together. Because, like I said, the growers, they're going to have their own packs to work on farm bills. We're, as American Peanut Shells, we're going to have packs to work on farm bill. But that's predominantly what we do with those. American Peanut Council, here's where, and as you know, food safety issues are only going to get more and more stringent, and all the things that go around that. So that's going to be the place where the council is going to be where, you know, those things can be handled. And there's no doubt that it's needed, and you know the work it's not just monitoring the U.S., but it's also monitoring around the world, because it's a world market. It's not a U.S. market. It's a world market.
Peanut Council today is one of the greatest things that's ever happened. The growers, the shellers, the manufacturers, everybody is together, and it's all about quality. It's all about having the best food supply that we possibly can have, and we're doing, I think, as a whole, doing a great job of that happening. And what I like about the American Peanut Council today is this: if there's any glitch in the industry, whether whether it's in supply, whether it's in the farmer area, whether it's in shelling, wherever it might be, that we address the problem immediately. And the total industry working together. So I'm excited about what's happening to peanuts.
I think if we're going to continue to want to grow peanuts, then the biggest issue is we've got to continue to sell peanuts. We're in a mature market in North America, in the U.S. and Canada, and really in Mexico as well. If you look at Europe, Europe's a relatively mature market as well. And we spend a lot of time and effort in those export markets because, first of all, it's kind of quick to get to Europe. We've got an office in Europe, so, you know, through the Peanut Council, and they've had one ever since Bill Hennick opened that first office over there. And, you know, now we've got to look at where the potential is. And the potential coming with Trans-Pacific Partnership is going to be in Asia. China has so many people, and their middle class is growing, and so China's going to be a brand new thing that we've got to look at, and it's going to be an interesting market because part of the Chinese market, not all of it, China's going to be many different market facets, but part of that market is going to sort of be like what happened to landline telephones in the developing world. Those landline telephones never happened in the developing world because folks went to cell phones. You know, there's a lot of folks in China that aren't going to go to a supermarket or a store or anything like that. It's going to be delivered right to the doorstep because it's more a way of life for them.
Well, the council brings us all together. It's the unifying force of the whole industry. We all need to support the council, and every time we have opportunity, promote the council, everybody needs to be a member of it, so that it's not only researchers, but growers, buying points, shellers, manufacturers, allied. We're all in this industry together, and when one has a problem, we all have a problem, but the council can unify us and keep us going forward in the future.
Well, we have to certainly look at our domestic market. We can't lose sight of our domestic market, the largest market for edible peanuts in the world. And then we have to look at certainly export markets. We have to look at maintaining our Canadian market. That's our largest export market, Mexico, but also focus on trying to recapture market share in the European market and look at new market potential such as China, and how do we tap into that? How do we support shellers and how do we support shellers in selling raw peanuts into markets like China, but also how do we bridge the gap, or how do we connect Chinese consumers to U.S. product manufacturers? And I think there's an opportunity there to learn and to connect Chinese consumers, over 300 million strong, who shop online with American product manufacturers. So we're talking about a market larger than the total United States population that we have an opportunity to tap into if we can figure out how to do it correctly.
Well, I think the American Peanut Council serves the entire industry extremely well. It's not only is it an opportunity and an organization where all segments can get together and work on common problems, but the APC has stepped forward as a leader in any emergency issues that faces the industry, such as food safety, and they've done a remarkable job of that. I think that we're headed in the right direction. With the elimination of the quota system and having a marketing loan program, look at this year. We're going to have the largest crop in the history of the United States.
I was looking around earlier at the meeting that we're attending here, the different products on the table. There are a lot of new products out there. Manufacturers are motivated. Consumption is at an all-time high in the United States. So I think we're headed to a very bright future for everybody.
There's been a lot of work done, not only in our side of it, in the electronic side, but just all the way from the farm. Segregation of peanuts to make sure that the good peanuts are kept separate from the bad peanuts, that the peanuts are stored properly, that peanuts are handled properly before they enter the shelling plant. And once in the shelling plant, we have developed new systems, and primarily that's the thing, the systems. There are no silver bullets in processing peanuts. It's just a matter of the steps that have to be taken and are taken. And because peanuts are very expensive to process, not so much on per pound volume, but just because of the pure volume of peanuts that are processed, you cannot make any processing mistakes because not only of the food value, but also the economic value.
The industry has some really good techniques. Part of the problem is understanding how important they are, like harvesting at the right time, curing at the right temperature, putting them in the warehouse and holding them in an appropriate manner, and then getting them shelled and getting it done. I think the flavor work let people understand what happens if you don't do it right. And so those things have made a big difference. From my perspective, the biggest impact of flavor is on an international basis. Now, I fully understand that we market products, we market peanuts, and so flavor is kind of an incidental thing in the light of the financial part. But we've demonstrated over and over the superior flavor of peanuts from the U.S. Compared to all the origins in the world. That, as well as the compositional differences, those things really give us as an industry a base to stand on to say, well, if you want the best, you're going to buy peanuts that are produced in the United States. And so I think flavor has been the key to that.
With the Farm Bill, for the first time, the industry was really able to come together. Up until that time, we had always been fractured in our interest and in how we related to the Farm Bill. But with the 2000 Farm Bill, we finally got to the point where peanut was a peanut was a peanut. And that, as a result of that, we've seen unique opportunities develop for the council to be involved in areas that we never have been involved in before. Because of its bylaws, it couldn't be involved in regulatory issues unless you had unanimous consent of the board of directors. And with the Farm Bill bringing those issues together, the council's been able to take on a number of occasions regulatory positions because there's been unanimity in the industry. And so it caused us not have to be so fractured in that approach. And secondly, the genomics issue, initiative that we've been dealing with has been just phenomenal in that we've always had breeding of peanuts and development of peanuts, but it's been predominantly, it's been in the areas of production of the peanut, which is important and continues to be important. But with the genomics issue, we're seeing that we're able to broaden that out to deal with attributes like flavor, disease control, things that are relative to the total industry, to include production development. As we've seen in recent history, we've seen phenomenal growth in that area.
I think probably the most significant thing was the change of the peanut program in 2002, doing away with quota and additional concepts into the kind of much more free market, peanut market-oriented system, and it opened up growing wherever you wanted to grow, and I think it changed the whole market and made us competitive with the world, which we didn't think at the time we could do, and that proves that we can be competitive with the world. And so I would say that would be my number one.
If you go back prior to 2002, particularly back in the early, mid, late 90s, this industry was dysfunctional, and nobody got along. The growers didn't like the shellers didn't like the growers, the Georgia growers hated the tech. I mean, it was really a dysfunctional industry. And it's a tribute to the council, because the council is still, we have a lot of organizations, but it's the only one that represents everybody. And if it weren't for the council getting everybody together to meet and maybe not directly hash out, but at least to meet and talk, I'm not sure we'd be in the much better position that we're in today.
Well, aflatoxin was and is the reason that I'm in the peanut business. I was a young lawyer practicing law in Suffolk, and my 3 uncles and dad called me over one day, and a small room were just overly concerned that they had heard of something called aflatoxin, and they didn't even want to express it out loud because they're afraid someone would hear the word. And they said, we think we need some help to not only save Birdsong peanuts, but to save the industry. It looks like something's going to destroy the industry because it had destroyed a flock of turkeys in London. And so I did accept the challenge to join the company. And right at that point in 1965, if you go back in your history, you'll find that's when the Peanut Administrative Committee, or they had a little bit different wording in that very first year, was created, and Jimmy Spain was active in it, and naturally I was active in it as well. And then you have, over time, just simply learned how to deal with aflatoxin. It was something that you didn't like, you didn't want, but something you could pick out and remove from your product. And working with the FDA and the USDA and everyone, we devised the peanut system of the Peanut Administrative Committee that evolved over time and now moved into the Standards Board. And so it's a manageable problem. It's still a problem, but it's a manageable problem that we've all learned to deal with. And that's what I'm hoping is going to happen with allergy.
Well, my opinion is we have the best product. It is very nutritious. People are just discovering it. The more nutrition research we have, the more we find out that the peanut is good for you. I see the new program giving us an opportunity for expansion. You may see peanut oil become a profitable venture in the future. More products. I think every manufacturer out there is looking at more peanuts, buying more peanuts, making more products. Peanuts is probably going to be their most inexpensive ingredient. And not only that, but the new genomics project is another new pioneering area that I think we'll be making a lot of progress in to help make a better product. But the future to me for the peanut industry is really bright.
So happy birthday to the American Peanut Council, and congratulations to the growers, shellers, brokers, manufacturers, and suppliers of goods and services to the peanut industry. Together, they continue to provide a forum for exchanging and processing information, providing leadership in issues management, serving as the voice for the industry, promoting the consumption of U.S. peanuts internationally, and support research that affects the peanut industry.
I'm Jack Chastain. I was privileged to serve as the president of both the Warehousemen Association and the Shellers Association.
I'm Charlie Ivey. I'm retired as the peanut buyer for Mars Chocolate North America. While I was with the council, I represented the manufacturing segment, and I was honored to serve as APC chairman from 2004 to 2005.
I'm Richard Barnhill with Mazer and Hockman Incorporated, and I was happy to serve as the chairman of the American Peanut Council in 2006.
Armand Morris, Georgia Peanut Commission. It's been a pleasure to have served as the chairman in 2012 of the American Peanut Council.
I'm Joe West of McCleskey Mills, a member of the shelling segment of the APC. It is a great honor to have served as 2014 chairman of this association.
Congratulations to the APC. Happy 75th. We are the APC.
Can you imagine what the next 25 years will be like? Imagine.